I'm not an academic, and I'm not one of those famous and filthy rich libertarians. And I use the term lovingly because, of course, there's absolutely nothing filthy about wealth unless it's stolen. The reason that I chose this topic is Giant gave me a call, or he emailed me and he said, I'd like you to speak at my seminar. And I'm saying, me? What do you want me to talk about? And he said, entirely up to you. I've put you in on Sunday at this time. Oh, okay. So I took a look at what else was on the agenda, and I saw that Doug was talking about one of the topics that I'm always debating with him on, and that is the evils of charity. And I also saw about the panel that was talking about why so many libertarians are poor as church mice. And I anticipated what that panel was going to be about. But instead of it being about what I thought it would be about, it turned out I fell in love with Albert Liu. What a guy. So when Doug was talking about charities yesterday, I thought, well, maybe my only chance to challenge him, because he's not here today, would be to pose a question to him. And the question I posed was to ask him to consider that it doesn't matter what form an individual or a group takes in order to provide a service that people find valuable, and that maybe he could consider that nonprofits and charitable organizations are simply people and individuals that he can delegate things to that he'd like to see done, but doesn't have the time or the interest or the talent, or has too high an opportunity cost to get involved in himself, and delegate those things to them, which I think is why most of us donate, right? How many would agree with that? We want to see it done. We're not in a position to do it ourselves, so we support those organizations that do. And I think for those of you who know Doug and idolize him to a degree, or totally, Doug is God, as far as I'm concerned. How many times have we heard that in a conversation? The best compliment he can give you is to say, you've got a point there. And I got it! So on the whole issue of charity, I'd just like to say that my whole education, except for the purchasing of Ayn Rand's books and all of the other books that I ended up reading, was all through events and speakers that were involved in a nonprofit congregation, either by choice or by chance. Because a lot of times we attempt to do what people believe should be a charitable thing. We attempt to do it as a profitable thing, and it doesn't work that way. So we choose to do it through a charity, perhaps earn a living doing it, or just have an opportunity to volunteer. But for example, I can't remember all of the different organizations and which speaker was at which one, but the Libertarian parties, the Mises Institute, the ILS, the Liberty Summer Seminar. I can't even name them all for sure. This one with Giant, which may or may not be a profitable operation, but it offers an opportunity to be with people of like mind, which is in itself a huge value, huge value. And I can remember little tidbits of things, answering questions that I had even after reading the books. For example, one of Walter Block's talks in Toronto many years back, he said, he answered the question, why gold as a to choose as a currency? Because I was going, what's the difference? Why wouldn't it be just rocks of a particular color or eggs or whatever? Like, I didn't understand why there were gold bugs. And he said it's because the market chose it before and the choice was taken away. That's like, cool. And these kind of insights are the sorts of things that have been happening here, right? All over the place. It may have been different for everybody in the room, but the insights of a different way of looking at things is the key. I just want to share a tiny bit about my own story, realizing that everybody in this room has a story. I gained carnal knowledge, became pregnant, and got married in that order when I was 15. I had flunked grade 10, even though I was actually a pretty good scholar and had skipped grades in earlier elementary school. And for the next 5 years, 3 children, my main reading material was True Love magazines and parents' magazines, because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And then I went out to work. Actually, I ran a small childcare in my home during the time, so I could be home with the kids until they were all in school. And then I answered an ad that said, if you love math in school, give us a call. And it turned out to be a temp agency that was training comptometer operators. And there are maybe 3 people in the room who know what a comptometer is. Are you there? No. Full keyboard calculator. Okay, so my first assignment was an after hours, an evening shift with J.M. Schneider's. And because I lived in Kitchener, which is the twin city of Waterloo, where the University of Waterloo is, a lot of the other people working those shifts were students, university students. Sorry, I'm getting excited. I would listen to their conversations, and it struck me that ideas are friggin' exciting. They're very exciting. And I had no idea where to start for my own education. So I asked my friends to make a list of books that they thought were important for me to read so I could start educating myself. And my best friend, who was the only one who ever gave me one of those lists, gave me this big list, and I had no idea where to start. And it turned out that the deal I made with myself is whichever book I see at a bookstore that's on this list is going to be the first one I read. And it turned out to be Atlas Shrugged. Oh my gosh, 1,187 pages of small type. That's what I thought when I first picked it up, but I made the rules, so that was what I read first. And I discovered I had a brain. I have a brain. I can think, I can figure things out. And that the Christian upbringing and all those things that I rebelled against but didn't know why, there was actually an answer for that. They were not based on principles that were defendable. So beyond that, once that happened, of course, my friend had no idea what a monster she was creating by having that book on the list. But I went through all of the radical period of turning off everybody and ending up getting a divorce and having to change from taking the kids to church and praying to getting them to appreciate the entrepreneurs out there who've actually made it possible for us to have the life we have. And got involved in a whole bunch of things, many of which are in the bio that's in the record there. But we each have just chosen what our route is going to be for our careers and for our contribution to the promotion of libertarian ideas. Which takes me to the next point, which was about the debate against why libertarians, or the response to why most libertarians are not famous or filthy rich. So my thinking was that it was going to be a debate about money. How much money do you have? How much of a net worth do you have? How much disposable income do you have in terms of dollars? But of course it wasn't about that, because Rick Rule right off the bat says, nope, not about that. It's all about value exchange and about choice. The term libertarian just means I won't harm you, you don't harm me, and the only way we know whether we're harming somebody is whether we're on their territory or not, and the only way we know where the territory lines is by respecting property rights. First, the property right in owning our own bodies, and the second in the extension of those property lines through justly acquired property. And once you get that, it's like everything becomes clear. There's no more gray. There's no more gray. It's all just black and white. But communicating with the other people that you associate with becomes a little more complicated because they don't see it. So I'm so grateful for all the speakers we've had today whose talks have made it easier for us to understand each other and those people we deal with every day that we don't have to write off because they aren't libertarians. We can actually live in society with them knowing that we're free inside and that we can always contribute to the spread of those ideas. And actually, again, I have to come back to Walter Block. He's one of the most brilliant libertarians that I know. And when he said that libertarianism is like a symphony. It's like a symphony. It just plays out so beautifully once you understand the concepts underlying it. So to go back to this, why are a lot of libertarians poor as church mice? It may be that that's true in terms of our dollar values, our liquid assets. But it's all about choice. So in the course of just this day or two, I've met people who are either former or current nurses, doctors, IT people, psychiatrists, psychologists, professors, economists, philosophers, firemen. We choose our professions based on something in our lives that makes us think that's going to be an important work for us. And that's what we do. And we are high risk, low risk, poor at making financial decisions, good at making financial decisions, and sometimes the financial decisions are not as important as the other decisions. Like, I have 3 children, 5 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren, and a lot of my money is spent making sure I get to visit them very frequently. So I make it, I don't keep it. So I'm still to make and keep my first $1 million. Actually, I'm still to make and keep my first $500,000, which has just says that don't marry me for my money, okay? But I love what I do. And both through my voluntary work in the libertarian movement and through my current business, I've run many businesses actually created one, sold it, and then pissed away the money on a venture that went bad, made some back, bought a little bit of real estate, decided that I like to collect rent. And I think the big thing about groups like this getting together, aside from just going through and saying that all of the values we get of coming together, almost all of these have been created, the opportunities have been created through voluntary services and through nonprofit organizations. And so don't worry about what Doug thinks. Make the decision for yourself. And the other thing is that I would just say the best life to live is one that you highly value, where you can collaborate with other minds who have similar values to yours. And I'd just say stay the course, because libertarian principles do matter.
Questions?
There may not, oh yes, go ahead. Thank you, Jane.
I would like to know what your businesses are.
So I guess from the time I was very, very young, sales attracted me. So I lied about my age and I sold all sorts of stuff to neighbors. And throughout business I realized that most small business people, I'm talking about small business people here because I really don't travel in the same leagues as the Doug Caseys and the Rick Rules and some of the others in the room who really have made the millions, multi-millions with their businesses. That most people do not know how to speak, to market themselves or to market their ideas. So there's always been this strain of marketing, whether it was through publishing client newsletters and then teaching clients how to use them as tools to market themselves and sell or not. So a telemarketing agency based on relationship building with clients, publishing business client newsletters, and then providing them with the tools and the skills to use them, managing marketing projects for individuals or companies, professionals or companies who didn't have those skills and could delegate them. And now I'm doing some business coaching after working for 14 years with Dan Sullivan, the strategic coach who Success Magazine says is the top entrepreneurial coach in North America. So that's what I do. I love what I do. I choose my clients. I choose when I'm going to book time with them so that I can be at events like this. And thanks for asking, because I just love it. Oh, may I make one little quick point? So I actually do have a weekly blog with just short business articles, and I'm a co-author of Mentoring Women Leaders, I tend to put my writing skills toward the business side as opposed to the libertarian side.